everything you do on LinkedIn, the idea is to bring people to look at your LinkedIn profile. So I'm going to talk about having a great looking LinkedIn profile, because until you do that, all that other cool stuff is not a good idea. People come back and look, they don't like what they see, you might not get another chance. So remind me again, we'll do the drawing at the end. So yeah, you heard the good stuff. How many people kind of feel a little strange about some of their background, like they feel they really don't want to talk about what they used to do? They were a hairdresser, a florist, they stayed at home for some years. Anybody feel a little awkward about showing some part of your background? Okay, at least one or two of you, good, it's not just me. I used to hide some of my background. I didn't talk about having a theater degree. My degrees are both in theater arts, and it didn't feel corporate. Some of my teaching experience just didn't feel like it was relevant to what I was doing now. And it was really only earlier this year that I had one of those kind of aha moments. It's like, oh my God, this career that I now have pulls all the pieces of my past together in one place to be my dream career. I was a theater director. I helped people look great on stage. What I do with LinkedIn is I help you look great on the stage of LinkedIn. I was a teacher. What I like to do is teach people to use LinkedIn so that it not just looks great. I do have a service that writes people's profiles for them, but what I really like to do is help them learn to use it so they're independent and can go on using it. And my university experience as a director of a training program means that I understand how ongoing education plays into you developing and changing your career. So, my typical clients are smart, busy professionals. And the reason I say they're smart is that it seems like everybody in Silicon Valley has this really high IQ. They're kind of scary. But they could do this stuff if they just took the time. But a lot of the time, you're trying to do your job, you've got families, you're busy, so they come to me because I help shorten that process. In a couple of hours, we completely transform their profile and they're well set to moving forward. They're successful in their field. They're good at what they do, but I don't know about you, but I didn't take a class in school of branding myself online. And for most of us, of a certain generation in particular, it's sort of a little weird. It's just like, I can't just go, let me just do my job. It's like, no, I've got to brand myself. I've got to be out there. I've got to have a public persona. I've got to talk about myself, what I'm doing. Anybody comfortable with doing all that online? No? Oh, maybe? Okay. So good. So if you are, you're a step ahead of most of us because it's a little weird. So I started doing this, what I call social media for the socially reluctant. And originally I was thinking of it as being more kind of age-based, like 40 to 60. We're less comfortable technically with doing this stuff. But it turns out that it's pretty much every engineer, financial professional, science professional in Silicon Valley. It's like, let me just do my work in the computer. I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want to talk about myself. I'm no brand. I'm just a financial geek guy or something. And you can't do that anymore. So, but it's also 20-somethings. Who knew? They don't know how to appropriately put themselves out there online. So I went and did a class for a company in San Francisco just on Monday. And it's their sales team of 20-somethings, smart, successful, really good salespeople. But their profiles really all look like they're looking for a job. Maybe they are, but you don't want to necessarily advertise that to your potential clients. So they brought me in really to teach them LinkedIn etiquette. So I mention that because it's like sometimes people say, well, I should be able to do all this myself. It's a free product. Why can't I do it? It's not always that easy. So I'm going to teach you some best practices and some things to avoid. So this is an honor system here because I didn't get a class list in advance to check you out. But on a scale of 1 to 5, 1, 2 being, I think I remember my password, but I'm not sure what my LinkedIn profile looks like. I get that a lot, trust me. You know, because their computer remembers it, so they don't actually know how to go into it themselves. 3 to 5, which is, dang, I'm good. I don't think this lady can probably teach me anything, but you know, there was nothing else I wanted to listen to, so I'm just sitting in here. So on the scale of 1 to 5, who feels they're kind of around a 1, 2? Okay, I love this honest woman over here. You know, she and I are just bonding already. Who feels they're kind of, they want to own that they're up close 4, 5? Okay, and you know I'll be looking afterwards, don't you? Because I've been to a presentation where I've had like 7 people who all said they were 5s, and trust me, I looked at their profiles, they were not. But I think we all can improve. I constantly am looking to see what I can improve. And if you have that little all-star status, and that's what's making you think you have a great profile, I'm going to tell you why you have to ignore that all-star status. It doesn't mean anything. Well, it means something, but not what you think it means. It does not mean quality. So the rest of you in the 3, 4 range, you got some basics there. You know it could be better. So what I'm going to talk about is why you should care, how to make a great impression, and my formula for LinkedIn success. So I like to reference that LinkedIn is social. You know, like Facebook, like other types of social media, it is social. It means it's about people. And there's a lot of pieces of that people. It means that everybody has a different opinion. It means that it's a little bit of the Wild West out there. LinkedIn's been around for a while, but there's no set rules. Everybody's got different ideas about what's good or not good. But one of the things I like to particularly mention is scroll. It's distracting. You know, there's stuff going on all the time. Now we're going to do LinkedIn. There's messages, there's email, there's notifications popping up. And even if you just look at LinkedIn, have you noticed how there's things popping up? Endorse somebody, add this to your profile. Are you in that profession? Constantly popping up. And I'll talk a little bit about why that happens. But do you ever have the experience where you think you're going to spend maybe 15 minutes on LinkedIn? You go in there and all these things are happening. An hour later, you've got sucked in and you think, you know what? I can't do this. I'm not going to go on LinkedIn for at least a month. I can't spare this time. What I do sometimes when I work with executives who complain to me about that, I said, how much time can you give me on LinkedIn daily? Because daily is important. I'll talk more about that later. They say 5 minutes. I say, okay, set your timer and do 5 minutes for me every day. And when the timer goes off, walk away from LinkedIn. And I swear they think I'm watching over their shoulder because they'll report to me, Sandra, I just spent 5 minutes. I turned it off when the timer said 5 minutes. I didn't think it was that scary, but obviously I am. So it's social, it's distracting. There's a lot of things to distract you on that. So mistake number 1. Anybody want to take a guess?
No picture?
Well, I was going to say a bad picture or no picture.
Okay, we're talking way more basic than that. Who knew?
Okay.
No LinkedIn profile at all. Now Christine was mentioning that, Johanna had mentioned that in New York, she did a conference like this and about half the people didn't have LinkedIn profiles. And it is somewhat geographic. I'm now getting a lot more clients from New York than I used to, and they are pretty basic. Now the growing area is the Midwest. And so it is geographically interesting, but guess what? In Silicon Valley, I often run into people without any profile at all. They've worked for the same company for 30 years. They get laid off. And maybe at that company they had Outlook or some email program or a customer relationship management system, a CRM, where all the data of all the connections they'd met over the years was there. They get laid off, and most of the time they get escorted from the premises. They go. They lose all of those connections. I had one guy who tried to recreate 40 years of his life. And he did it. He was dedicated, and it's possible, but it was hard work. So LinkedIn is your personal CRM that when you leave the company, you get to take it with you. So it's a critical tool you just can't ignore. So mistake number 1 is nobody here is guilty of that? No, good. Okay, so you're a step ahead of many. So why the heck you should care? Some of these reasons you know, some of them you might not have thought about. When somebody is going to apply to work at a company, they're looking at the managers they're going to work for, their potential coworkers. It's like, do I want to work with these people? Are they going to be cool to work with? Am I going to get a chance to work on cool projects? So absolutely your coworkers. It's not just looking for a job. A very small part of my clientele are job seekers. Most of them want to look good in the workplace. So potential employees, if you're hiring, trust me, they're looking. So I work with companies sometimes to help their managers look good on LinkedIn so they can attract good employees. Very competitive market in Silicon Valley these days for employees, especially in the technical professions. So you got to look good. Potential job leads, absolutely. It's a powerful, powerful job seeking tool. I'll talk a little bit about some of the things in LinkedIn that make it particularly good, but absolutely, it's critical. A lot of companies only use LinkedIn for advertising and hiring, so you got to do that. And this one is my favorite. You say, well, you know, I've got a good job, I've got great network, I've got connections. Why would I care? Building relationships. I look at someone's picture on LinkedIn when I'm talking to them because I'm looking at their picture. I'm smiling more. My hands are usually going. I should have been Italian. You know, my parents used to make me sit on my hands. But it's just a wonderful place to reach out to people. You meet them at a networking event. Like here, you're collecting a card. What do you do with that card when you go back? You throw it in the drawer? No, you connect to them on LinkedIn, but that's only the beginning. Then you follow up with them. So you begin what I call the relationship dance. Powerful, powerful tool. So I'm just going to mention the numbers a little bit. So 400 million users worldwide, over 400 million. That's a lot of users. 107 million plus in the US alone. Those are big numbers. 2 new users per second. While I've been blathering away here, you know, how many hundreds of people have joined LinkedIn? Also, how many hundreds have left LinkedIn in total frustration? But that's another question. 40% log in daily. And I like to mention this number because that's a part of all this throwing stuff at you to engage. You're familiar with the old Nielsen ratings where TV programs decided how much to charge advertisers based on how many people watched? Of course, now we fast forward through the commercials, but it's the same thing. LinkedIn bases its advertising rates, which are really expensive, on how many people are logging in daily. So this number, whether it's 40% or whether it's 25%, they're constantly doing stuff to engage you to log in. The more you log in, the more they can charge their advertisers. It's good for you too, but that is...
From LinkedIn, is that?
This was actually from an external source. The number I saw recently from LinkedIn as part of their being sold to Microsoft was 25%. You know, it's a big number. But this is not LinkedIn. And I try to update these numbers periodically, and you know, who knows? Let's say it's big. So mistake number 2. Okay, now you're all going to guess this one, right?
Photo.
No?
Photo?
Photo. Okay, no profile picture. And you know what? If you don't have, anybody here doesn't have a profile picture that you're willing to confess to me? Okay. If you don't have a picture, you actually do. You have this one. You have, don't look at me, I'm ashamed, I'm embarrassed, I'm old, fat, and ugly, and I don't want anybody to know. And you know what? The men are worse than the women on this. I've sometimes had to go with my male clients to the photographer to get the picture taken and choose it for them. You've got to have a picture, and I'll talk about what kind of picture later, but you've just got to do it. People are 11 to 14 times more likely to connect with you on LinkedIn if you have a picture. A lot of times people just say, I don't connect to anybody without a picture. They are much more likely. It's part of that relationship. I've met 3 people here today that I've only ever talked to on LinkedIn, seen their picture, but we were able to go up to each other like old friends. So powerful tool, you gotta do it. So what's a good picture? And I'm sorry, I didn't use one of my slides with some male pictures. I apologize to my gentlemen friends here. But a good picture is a professional headshot, ideally. If you can't afford it, I'd still rather you have a picture than no picture at all. But you want just head and shoulders, even though the photographer sometimes takes like a half body picture. You only want the head part. You crop it within LinkedIn to do that. You want to look like you. You want to look like you on a good day. You don't want to look like you on your best day, which means not your wedding day, not your kid's wedding day. Because I've had people where I've met, and do you really want to go up to someone and you don't say it, I hope, but you're thinking, oh my God, I didn't recognize you because you're 40 pounds heavier and 30 years older and I didn't have a clue it was you. You know, you don't want that. You want to go up and say, oh, it's great to meet you. I recognize you right away. So don't do that, please. Yeah.
What do you think about refreshing the photo? Because, I mean, I think that's like, you know, you age, like my photo is a bad photo. It's a bad photo. It's not a professional headshot. It's 10 years old at this point, but I haven't had the headshots taken. And I've noticed, you know, I've met people whose photos are even older than mine. So what's your rule of thumb for how often you need to refresh that photo? Every 5 years?
2.
Every 2.
Every 2 years. And it depends. I had someone come up to me and she said, I didn't recognize you. Well, you know, women, how we kind of change our hair color. And my hair color changes according to whether I've just been to the hairdresser or whether I'm due to go again. So I decided based on that I needed to have a new photo because I'd been blonder and now it was darker again. So you want, you know, and self-honesty, and again, I find the men are usually worse than the women. It's like, I haven't changed a bit. I look just like that. And because I work with my clients virtually, I can't always tell. And they say, yes, they say it's 10 years old, but I look just like that. I haven't changed a bit. I'm sorry, you know. And, you know, if you're worried about ageism, yes, there is ageism in Silicon Valley, no doubt. But I think it has to do a lot with a kind of energy, vitality. You want to look on that picture like you're just practically popping out of the page with, welcome, can't wait to meet you, I want to know you, I want to engage with you, a kind of energy. And sometimes as we get older and we have our pictures taken, we're self-conscious, and we kind of, I don't know, it's just this whole kind of droopy down feeling. So, you know, 2 years, ideally. I sometimes do mine more often, but then I have to change all my marketing material, so it's a bit of a pain too. But I wouldn't go older than 3. I think we're kidding ourselves if we go older than that. You know, sometimes finances are a problem. People can take great headshots in the backyard with the great modern cameras and phones. Just make sure the lighting's good. Lighting can be very unflattering if it's not a professional, but do good lighting, have nothing weird in the background, and you're good to go. So, yeah.
You know, one thing I really wanted, and I don't know if you have this or not, but I wish there was a chart I could go to that said for Facebook, for LinkedIn, for Twitter, this is the size, this is the number of pixels for the, because when you go, I went and paid to have a professional headshot done, which turned out great, but different social media spots require different, and I want to be able to tell that to my photographer and say, this is what the parameters are. Just give me the file that has these things in it. Because once I get it, I don't want to have to worry about pixels and size. Is there a chart that you can
There's a chart for like the backgrounds and things. I'd have to think about whether there's a chart for your photo. I think there is. Email me afterwards because that would be a good thing to reference it. I think I've seen something. I just can't remember it.
Because all the profiles are important, whether it's LinkedIn, social, Twitter.
Yeah, some of them end up, cropping me way tighter than I want to. So yeah, definitely email me, I'll see what I can find. The reason, have you noticed sometimes people's profiles have tiny wee little pictures like a postage stamp? Looks so unprofessional. Love this guy, he's so well regarded, well respected, thinks he has a great LinkedIn profile, and I don't quite have the heart to tell him. And the reason for that is the resolution's too low. He's cropped it out of another picture. He doesn't look bad except for maybe the tower coming out of his head, but it's too small, so it doesn't represent him well. So anyways, that's why that happens. Formula, your magical mystery formula for what I'm going to define as LinkedIn success, that you want to have it complete. Now, remember that all-star status? Anybody know off the top of their head that they've got the all-star rating on their LinkedIn profile? Okay.
I don't even know what you're talking about. What is that?
When you look at your profile on the right-hand side, it will say expert, all-star, and some people get very proud. Well, they say, well, LinkedIn says I'm an all-star. I have a great profile. Sorry to disillusion you. All it means is that it's complete. All the core features are complete. And this can get you into trouble. I had a student at San Jose State, just about to graduate with her MIS degree. Really bright young woman. Also very entrepreneurial. She had started her own business while she was in college. So she came to my class thinking that she was a 5 and that she was just going to help her classmates with their profiles. Well, have you noticed that when you put in a new job on LinkedIn, that if you don't uncheck a tiny little box, it overwrites it to the top, puts it in the headline, right? So she, very proud, all-star, about to graduate with her MIS degree, and she was an all-star dog walker because she'd started her own business as a dog walker, hadn't noticed that it had overwritten her headline. So beware, all it means, complete does not mean quality. Keywords. Keywords are the words that somebody would use to look for you and or your skills. So that those are things that you need to have in your profile. And the places you need to have them are your headline, your summary, your job title and or job description, and your skills. There are some other places you can put them, but those are the key places that the algorithm in LinkedIn looks. Okay, your headline, your summary, your job title and or your job description, and your skills.